This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglin.
If you love something, set it free. That had to be written by a catch-and-release fisherman. And with Valentine's Day upon us, it's an especially timely topic. So we go inside outdoors with Lee McClellan, angler extraordinaire and writer for Kentucky Afield magazine. If you love it, let it go. Perhaps it will come back to you as a bigger fish. A chat about Kentucky's seasonal catch-and-release trout streams. This week on Kentucky Afield Radio.
At the absolute worst, it was a little white lie.
A little white lie.
After all, when it hit the line, it felt like a 15-pounder. It doesn't matter what the scale says. So it might be an ever so slight deviation from the truth.
Sometimes in fishing, the truth is hard to catch.
Maybe just a stretch.
But the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife reminds you, fishing isn't about math. It's about fun.
And fudging a little if you need to.
Kentucky Fishing.
It'll make a liar out of you.
Kentucky's Nature and Wildlife Fund. You see it as a contribution option when you prepare your state tax return. But you also see it as songbirds and wildflowers. You can see it in clear, flowing streams. Sometimes it's so secluded you may never see it at all. But if you only see it on your PC as you prepare your taxes, that's good too. Google it and see the difference this fund makes. Kentucky's Nature and Wildlife Fund, the natural tax shelter.
This is Kentucky Afield Radio, and my name is Charlie Baglin, and I have in the studio with me Lee McClellan. Lee, welcome.
It's good to be here, Charlie.
You are a writer for Kentucky Afield magazine.
Yes, sir.
But above and beyond all that, you're a man who knows about love of fishing.
Yes.
And here we are very close to Valentine's Day, and I think it's only appropriate that we talk about love, pure love, simple love. The love that comes from deep within your heart. None of this made up, I'll love you today, gone tomorrow stuff, but this is pure love, lifelong love, love of fishing.
Yes.
You are the spokesman for that love.
Well, there's a lot of guys who are spokesmen for that. Often to their wives' not liking. How about that?
Well, you are a romantic. Here you are, full head of hair, which I don't have. Successful, well-spoken.
Depends on who you talk to.
Author. You are the embodiment of romance.
No, I guess so.
I don't know anyone better to be able to talk about pure love of fishing. Put that pause in there for dramatic emphasis. Than you. Before we get into that, because I have a story that will bring tears to your eyes. We want to talk about Kentucky's catch-and-release streams. These are seasonal catch-and-release streams. There was a press release a few weeks ago talking about enjoy seasonal catch-and-release trout streams.
I enjoyed writing that one.
This winter, and you are the author of that.
That's part of our weekly Kentucky Field Outdoors columns that come out every Thursday afternoon.
It takes a devoted and dedicated individual to fish in the winter, unless maybe there's someone at home that sort of drives you to do that.
Well, she doesn't. There's times where she wants to clonk me on the head for going fishing in the winter or going on a float trip, or but she's been very understanding.
How do you characterize anybody? This could be a little boy, little girl, man, woman, it doesn't matter. How do you characterize somebody who will go out and take advantage of a winter opportunity to stream fish?
Well, you know, it's not that crazy. It's actually one of the best times of the year to fish. With the modern equipment that we have now, with the breathable waders, with the polypropylene fleece, using a polypropylene liner in your sock and then putting a wool sock over it or another polypropylene fleece sock, it's so much better than it was, say, just 20 years ago. You don't feel the effects of the cold as you did in the day of wool socks and cotton and flannel. So it's not as unbearable as it would have been a generation ago. So if you take the proper precautions, polypropylene fleece is one of the greatest things ever to happen.
And they're made out of plastic 2-liter bottles, right?
Pretty much, yes.
Recycled.
And you can get them at at department stores. Any of the outfitters, such as Cabela's, Bass Pro, will carry excellent undergarments. I've got a shirt that was made by Reddington. It cost me $12, and it's a thin fleece. But I'm telling you, if I had it on right now, I'd be pouring sweat. Mm-hmm. It keeps you warm as toast. So you combine that with wonderful breathable waders we have now. And even if you don't have waders, most of these streams are little enough you can fish them from the bank.
I want to tell you a story about Pure Love here while we're talking about Pure Love fishing, synonymous, and we are talking about here in the shadow of Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. A story that happened to me. I was out with Pam, and she loves to run. Everybody has their own hobby. She likes to run. She needs quality running shoes, just as you need quality fishing pole, mm-hmm. reel, tackle, boat, all those things. She and I together, this is where love comes in, the conversation of sacrifice. And it's not just what you will do for someone or somebody or an issue, but what you will do when it's inconvenient that really shows the purity of that love.
Yes.
She and I were in the shoe store, and she was deciding this color or that color. Do you think this size or that size? And get this question, Lee. Do these shoes make me look fat? About an hour and 45 minutes of this, I was starting to get my fill. Mm-hmm. But I was a good fella, and I just went outside and let her browse and try on different ones, knowing that she was going to come out of there with the perfect pair. Meanwhile, it was a blustery day, and a front was blowing in. It was probably 40 degrees. You know, the wind out there snapping, and there was spitting rain, and I got to thinking, given my choice, here shopping for shoes or fishing, this would be the perfect day to go fishing. Have you ever been in a position like that?
Often. Especially when I'm at stores such as those are the stores where I look out and see that it's 18 degrees and snowing, and I'd rather be fishing.
You could be fishing.
But I could be practically at practically anywhere, and seeing weather like that would make me want to fish, because wintertime, again, is one of the excellent times to catch big fish. And the older I get, the I guess maybe a little more ornery I get, but I like to have things to myself. And in the winter, if you're willing to brave the elements with the wonderful equipment you have now, it's not that bad, and you will have it to yourself. I don't even go to Lake Cumberland or some of those bigger lakes in the summer anymore. I float streams because I want to do the opposite of what the crowds are doing, because the older I get, the more I want solitude. And then you will have that. And that's what the beautiful thing about these streams is, you will have solitude. You'll have it to yourself. And one of the most productive times, believe it or not, to fish is when there's a gentle snowstorm.
Really?
If it's a gentle snowstorm, if you're smallmouth fishing on Lake Cumberland or Dale Hollow or Laurel River Lake, or if you're fishing one of these delayed harvest streams, you will notice the fish will turn on when there's a gentle snowstorm.
We are talking to Lee McClellan about Kentucky's seasonal catch and release streams. We'll get into exactly what that means and where some of these are. But a general statement about fishing, I think that most people could make. Most fishing is catch and release. Do you have a percentage? Do you think, how many of the fish you actually catch would you bring home?
Probably in the neighborhood of 1% to 2%.
So it's 1 or 2 out of 100.
Yeah, out of 100, yes.
That's not many.
And often, usually, I have a reason for this. My wife doesn't. She's allergic to things that are swimming in the water. She can't eat them. So when I bring fish home, I usually bring it home to give away. And that often prompts me to order a lot of fish when we eat out, because I get fish. Now, a lot of times, I go on fishing trips with a group of buddies, and that's when I keep and eat fish, but I eat them on the trip, and that's something I really look forward to. But if I think of all the limits I've caught and could have kept, there's thousands of fish swimming now that would have been table fare, could have been table fare.
You wrote a quote here. It says, "The stretch from New Year's to the first warm shirt-sleeve weather of March is often a long, arduous stretch of weeks. Cabin fever inflicts anglers as they pine for the sound of a drag singing, the gentle gurgle from water flowing over riffles, and the satisfaction and tired body from a day of wading a stream." You wrote that not just to fill some space in a newspaper column. You wrote that about you, didn't you?
Yes.
That's you to the T. I want to talk more about Kentucky's catch and release streams when we come back on Kentucky Afield Radio. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio, and my name is Charlie Baglin, and I have in the studio Lee McClellan. And Lee, I have a note here about you that says you are a writer for Kentucky Afield magazine, and you are a repository for all things fishing.
Well, I don't know about that.
Can you define what that means, repository for all things fishing?
I don't think I can.
You are a stud. You are a man of romance. And so that combined with fishing, we wanted to have you on for the annual show about love. And here we are within a few days of Valentine's Day, that you know a lot about love and what pure love, true love, simple love is. And is that how you would describe how you feel about fishing?
Well, and my wife, too. I just got my first good kayak, and she's fascinated by it. So I look for us to spend a lot more time on the water this coming year. We used to, when we were first married, fish a lot. And my wife one time caught almost 7-pound smallmouth in Cherokee Lake. When she was young. She's a good angler. She doesn't have a lot of patience. She likes action, so she's a spinnerbait and crankbait woman. She likes to throw it out and crank it in.
So let's say you had the choice of 1, fishing, or 2, going to some inane movie with your wife. Which would it be, fishing or movie?
Well, it would depend on the movie, of course. If you're married long enough, I'm going on my 14th year now, there's battles you have and there's battles you don't. And so it would be in that context.
Let's say fishing, even on the worst day weather-wise, or selecting wallpaper with your wife.
Fishing on the worst day weather-wise.
Selecting cutlery, crystal, curtains, or fishing.
Fishing every time, but that's not practical, as we all know.
Sacrifices make us do what we do. And here's a question. What would you sacrifice for fishing? Let's say you were in an important meeting. You get a text message, and it says, the crappie are hitting. We need you here now. Would you say, well, I can't, I'm in a meeting? Or would you say, got to go fish?
I'd say I can't, I'm in a meeting.
You would?
Yeah.
I wish you could see my eyes, how big they just got, that you would actually stay in a meeting.
Well, see, I like this thing called food, and I like that when I'm hungry, I have it, and I like this thing called a house, especially on these blustery days we've been having lately. So, those things are handy. So employers probably wouldn't like it if you got up and left a meeting to go hit crappie, even though it would be great if we could all do that. But
Kentucky's seasonal catch and release trout streams. There are a few adjectives in there. 1, seasonal. What is the season?
The season opens October 1, and it runs through March 31st, except on Swift Camp Creek in the gorge, and that runs all the way until the end of May.
That's Red River Gorge.
That is in the Red River Gorge.
Wolf County?
Yes, in the National Geologic Area. I believe it is Wolf County. Let me make sure. Yes, that's Wolf, because Menifee and all those kind of run together in the gorge there.
So what is going on, and what's the management?
Do you remember Jim Axon?
I know Jim Axon.
And Jim retired here a few years ago.
Jim Axon was the assistant director of the Division of Fisheries
for a long, long, long time, and was the trout guru. And he wanted a way for anglers to enjoy the fall stockings of trout and get more mileage out of them. And one of the things, and I talk about this in the piece, but one of the things that hatchery trout do is they've been fed by humans in the trout, or the hatchery environment rather. And trout don't have their natural defenses they would if they were raised in the wild. So it takes a while to develop that. And one of the things that the seasonal catch and release streams do is it allows the fish to spread out throughout the stream during the winter months, and also acclimates them a little more, so we have a better chance of them growing bigger before harvest. Because and if you've ever been around when they release the trout from a truck, or you fished a stream where they had just stocked within a couple of days, I mean, they are really easy to catch. They don't know any better yet. So you give them a couple of weeks in the natural environment, or a month or so, and suddenly those fish start acting like trout would in the wild. And he wanted an experience in the winter that would get more bang for your buck out of that fall stocking, and also kind of improve the fishing overall in the stream, because they'll get all winter and all the way up until March before anglers can go at them again, and that leads to a better chance of some of those fish, what we call holding over, or holdovers, which means they don't get caught the year they're stocked. They'll stay a couple of years and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that was one of the goals as well.
So these are cold water streams, cooler water streams, that trout, which is a cold water species, can it live in throughout the year, even through summer?
Oh Lord, that's their preferred temperature. They're fine this time of year. Now, the one thing that some of these streams will have is there'll be some where the water temperature gets a little warm in summer for them to stay. They'll stress. The 70-degree mark is the general line of demarcation. If the stream gets much above 70 for weeks at a time, then those trout are going to have a difficult time. But a lot of these streams are spring-fed, or they're mountain streams, so we do have holdovers. Not a ton, but we do have some holdovers. You know, those drought years where it gets really low flow and really hot, those years make it difficult for trout in these streams to make it. So when March comes around, don't be ashamed to harvest a few trout. It's not going to hurt anything. But remember, you have to have your trout permit.
So we have March 31 as generally when the season closes on catch and release. So April 1st,
you can keep them.
You can start keeping them. And by the time that they are stocked in the fall to when you can start keeping them in the spring, how much more have they grown? They've grown some.
They're usually around 9 inches when they're stocked. They can get maybe a little longer than that. If they can hold over a year or two, then you'll get some growth. But in that month or two span, they're not going to get gigantic in just from October to March. But if they can hold over from October to the next October, then that's when you start seeing some growth.
So if they're in there for that length of time,
then you're going to have a quality fish.
Quantify quality.
A lot of guys will fly over the country to catch 11-inch trout in a mountain stream. That's what they're into. But you know that they can get, they're 9 inches. They can get up foot long, longer. Again, a lot of that depends on food availability, weather, flow. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
So you're packing up to go out for a day of fishing. Tell me about what you're going to take with you. What kind of tackle?
It depends on if you're a fly angler or a spinning angler. If you're a fly angler, you don't want to bring much more than a 4-weight rod, because most of the fish you're going to catch are going to be between 9 and 12 inches long. So you want to make that fun. And, you can bring some of your nymphs. One of the things that always works is a black woolly bugger. I mean, that works year round. There's a fly that Brett, our former colleague, loved to throw called the Chicago fly, and it's kind of a generalist pattern. It looks really like a big ball of black sewing thread, and you look at it, you're like, how would this catch anything? And it hammers them. Hare's ear, Prince nymph, all those will work. Small streamers, chartreuse and white, are a great combination for this time of year, with the little bitty barbells on it so you can get down. Spinning wise, you can throw inline spinners, work all the time, little spoons, little bitty crawfish crankbaits. All of those things will catch them in the wintertime. But an inline spinner is pretty hard to beat, or a little spoon, because they'll hit those. And one of the things about the catch and release only streams is you cannot use any live bait or organic bait. It's only artificial lures. So stuff like a power bait or corn or any of that is out, or worms. You've got to use artificial lures.
A question, why is that?
Again, to keep people from, this is a catch and release only, and a lot of times when you have live bait, you get gut hooking, and even when you release them, they're not going to make it. And the whole key was to provide a sporting opportunity, allow the fish to grow, get more out of that stocking, and provide an excellent sporting opportunity for people in the winter. Most of the people who are going to this aren't going for dinner. They're going to get out and get out.
They're going for the love of it.
For the love of it. So this provides them an opportunity for it.
What else is biting when they get there?
Usually just in these streams, probably the trout. Most of your warm water streams in winter. Now, smallmouth bass will bite in Lake Cumberland year-round. Winter is my much preferred time to fish for them in that environment, or Del Hollow or Laurel or any of those lakes down in that part of the country. But in streams, smallmouths will go dormant in winter. Most of your warm or cool water species will go dormant. Trout doesn't bother them at all. So you're pretty much going to catch trout. You might pick off a sunfish, maybe a rock bass, but mainly it's trout.
We are talking to Lee McClellan, who is a writer for Kentucky Afield magazine, and he wrote a press release not too many weeks ago, and we're just getting to it because it's a long season, that's called Enjoy Seasonal Catch and Release Trout Streams This Winter. And so we're talking about the love of winter fishing as it applies to catch and release trout streams, and the love of fishing as Valentine's Day is right here pretty much upon us. And so the love of fishing, I think, is apropos.
Yes, it is.
And we'll talk more to Lee. I want to find out, Lee, from you, where you've been, where these places are, and I understand that they are some of the most scenic places on the planet.
They are.
Well, we'll get into that.
Cool.
My name's Charlie Bagman. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Kentucky Afield Radio, and my name is Charlie Baglan. And I remember some years ago saying to someone that love isn't measured in just what you will do for someone, but it's measured in what you will do when it's inconvenient. To the person I said it to, it flew like a lead balloon. But to my guest, Lee McClellan, he knows differently. I'll ask him what he loves and what's on his list beyond fishing. First up, our fishing report.
This is Kevin Fry with your Eastern Area Fisheries Report. Kingdom Come State Park and High Splint Lakes, Harlan County, were stocked with rainbow trout on Tuesday the 12th. Occasional warmer sunny days have got crappie and catfish to biting in shallow water at Dewey and Fish Trap Lakes. A depth of 2 to 3 feet will hold fish on these days. Whether shallow or deep, crappie are being caught with tube jigs, primarily in chartreuse color. It is a good time of year to try for muskie below Buckhorn Dam and walleye below Fish Trap Lake Dam. Large inline spinner or hard stick baits are popular for muskie, and 2 to 4 inch soft plastics or curl-tail grubs are popular for walleye. Good luck with your stream fishing, and be careful this time of year with high water events.
This is Jeff Crosby with the Central District Fishing Report. This is a great time of year to get a lot of your maintenance done on your fishing equipment. Also, people are still catching quite a few sauger on many of our rivers in the area, especially Ohio River and Kentucky Rivers. McAlpin and Markin dams are a very good area this time of year for sauger anglers. Try live minnows and also a variety of jigs and spoons to catch these fish. Please be careful when fishing in these areas and observe all boating regulations when fishing below these locks and dams. Trout are being stocked into many of our Fins lakes throughout the area. This can provide an excellent opportunity for one to catch a few trout this time of year. Please check our website at fw.ky.gov for those Fins lakes in your area. Good luck, good fishing, and hope to see you on the water.
Hi, this is Eric Cummins with your Southwest Kentucky Fishing Report. At Barren River Lake, the lake is approaching winter pool. Bass are being found at 15-foot plus depths with jerk baits and jigs. Crappie bite also at similar depth near the channel or structure with minnows or jigs. Barren River Lake tailwater has been dumping pretty heavy for the past couple weeks. Hybrid crappie activity has been good near current breaks. Catfish have been good on cut bait. At Green River Lake, bass bite has been on jerk baits and jigs. Crappie bite been good in 12 to 15 foot of water near channel with minnows and jigs. Green River Lake tailwater has had good walleye, crappie, and muskie action. Also, catfish have been good on cut bait as well. As always, good luck and good fishing. Be sure you wear your life jacket.
This is Charlie Baglin on Kentucky Afield Radio, my home address for the rest of the hour. Catch and release streams. The seasonal variety in Kentucky. Where are they? The peace and quiet and the solitude that awaits you when you get there. More details just ahead on Kentucky Afield Radio.
Kentucky's Nature and Wildlife Fund. You see it as a contribution option when you prepare your state tax return. But you also see it as songbirds and wildflowers. You can see it in clear, flowing streams. Sometimes it's so secluded you may never see it at all. But if you only see it on your PC as you prepare your taxes, that's good too. Google it and see the difference this fund makes. Kentucky's Nature and Wildlife Fund, the natural tax shelter.
This looks like your average fishing license, but look again. It's helping stock 4 million fish in public waters. On land, it manages 1 million acres of wilderness. In the classroom, it teaches kids the wonders of nature. I'm Tim Farmer with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. Hunting and fishing licenses and boater registration dollars make a difference, and you're a part of it. Get your license wherever sporting goods are sold or at fw.ky.gov.
You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio, and welcome back. My name is Charlie Baglin. I have a fisherman extraordinaire named Lee McClellan sitting across the desk from me. But you're a writer for Kentucky Afield magazine. The Blue Water Trail series is yours. What else have you put a pen to that folks will have heard about?
I've written for, going on 12 years now, a bi-weekly column, our Kentucky Afield Outdoors column. And before I came to the department, I wrote a few history articles and a couple of things for Kentucky Game and Fish magazine. But since then, I've written, and I've been on the television show. I've been on your radio show. So they may have heard of me there. But mainly I've written for the magazine, and I've written press releases and our weekly Kentucky Afield Outdoors columns. And
as I understand it, you once upon a time, maybe you still are, a history professor at Midway College.
I'm teaching Kentucky Studies right now.
That's interesting. Okay. It is Valentine's Day weekend where we're talking about love and pure love, love without prejudice, love without flaw, the love of fishing. Mm-hmm. And I assume that you can apply this to love of baseball, love of computers, love to old cars, guns, hunting, rabbits, whatever you want to love of tennis, golf, love of picking out new curtains for your bathroom. I don't do that necessarily myself. Yeah. I am specific to where I will apply my definition of love. Mm-hmm. I trust you are the same. Mm-hmm. To what do you apply it, if there is anything else beyond fishing?
Of course, my wife. I love to teach. I love my puppy dogs. I love to take photos. Love to read. Don't love cleaning toilets as much as all those for some reason. Or any of the housewares type stores. Don't love them as much.
We have a press release that you penned about fishing these catch-and-release streams across Kentucky, and I'll quote you right here. It says, the seasonal catch-and-release trout streams flow through some of Kentucky's most beautiful areas. Mm-hmm. And then you go on with a list of these. Mm-hmm. Do you have that list in front of you? Where are these that are so breathtaking?
Well, the Red River Gorge is known throughout the world among hikers, among rock climbers, among campers. It's one of the most unique areas on Earth, and everybody in Kentucky knows about the gorge. One thing about the gorge is it's loved a lot in summer. Mm-hmm. However, at this time of year, you can have the gorge to yourself. I've fished East Fork of Indian Creek and Swift Camp in the wintertime, and you will see a park ranger, so make sure you have your license and your trout stamp. You don't technically need a trout stamp to fish the delayed harvest streams because you're not catching them, but we just highly, highly recommend that you do.
Because you said catching them.
Yes.
You're not taking them
away. Yes, you need your trout stamp. Unless you're on the Cumberland River, and no matter what you're doing, you have to have a trout stamp. Even if you're striper fishing, you must have your trout stamp. The ranger is about the only person you're probably going to see. You may see a few hikers. You're going to see some intrepid folks. But the beautiful thing is you're going to have it to yourself. And East Fork of Indian Creek is a beautiful little stream that flows in Menifee County. It flows in from the north part of the Red River. And the further you go up, that stream, the more you work, the better the fishing gets. And I remember Jim Axon told me way in the headwaters one time with a backpack shocker, they ran across some really nice brown trout. I think they only stocked just 400 annually. But as you get up in there's some really big boulders, and those browns will hang out underneath those big boulders. I
was reading in there, you called these boulders the size of homes, and that's a big rock. You have a list here of 13. So in Kentucky, there are 13 officially designated.
Check your fishing guide before you go out, because there's sections of them on some of these that most of them are the whole stream, but some of them are sections of the stream.
There are 13 of these. You have that list right in front.
I sure do.
Just list them off the laundry list, what they are, what county they're in.
East Fork of Indian is one of the ones I recommend highly, and that's in Menifee. That's in the Red River Gorge National Geologic Area, and it's awesome. Swift Cam Creek is also in the gorge. It flows from south to north, and I'm sure anybody that's been in the gorge knows where Swift Cam Creek is. And, of course, the legend of John Swift's silver mines inspired that name. Beaver Creek is actually tributary to Lake Cumberland, if you've been down there, the Beaver Creek arm. That's the upper part of it. Big Bone offers a friend of mine fishes that really regularly, and I know a lot of the guys in the Northern Kentucky fly fishers fish this in the wintertime, and that's up in the Big Bone Lick State Park in Northern Kentucky there in Boone County. Cane Creek in Laurel County is really pretty, and it's a very remote stream. So if you want to get away from it all, that's a good one to try. Casey Creek in Trigg County, I know our friend Gary Garth fishes that one quite a bit during the winter. I'm not as familiar with that one as I am some of the others, but I do know it offers good fishing. Clear Creek in Bell County, I've been down on that with our old friend Doug Stevens and John Williams, and I managed to lock the keys in the car in the middle of nowhere down there. That stream is an overlooked beauty, and it flows through Kentucky Ridge State Forest. It's gorgeous. It has some smallmouth in the lower region, so one of the things that we talked about earlier was in the dead of winter, the trout are going to be what hits. But as we get in the last week of February and on into March, especially in Clear Creek, Rock Creek, Otter Creek, maybe a little bit in Swift Cam Creek, you will get into some smallmouth bass as you get into March. So you can catch both trout and smallmouths in those streams during that time. East Fork Indian we've talked about. That's one of my favorites. During the summer, it gets a lot of use. And here in a little while, we'll talk about areas in these streams to target for these trout. But that one has quite a few blue holes in it, and has some really good spots in there to catch some trout. Elk Spring Creek in Wayne County, I'm not as familiar with that one, but I hear it's beautiful. That's down around the Lake Cumberland area. And Left Fork of Beaver Creek in Floyd County is gorgeous. Middle Fork of the Red River is near the Natural Bridge State Park. So if you go up to the gorge, you can hit Middle Fork of Red, Swift Cam Creek, and East Fork of Indian in a day, and have 3 nice streams to hit.
If you've not fished them, which you have fished the vast majority, it sounds like, you're at least very familiar with the area enough to write the article. Do you have a favorite?
Yes, I would say of all of these, Rock Creek would be my favorite. And Otter Creek in Meade County, too. One thing, that's the Otter Creek outdoor recreation area that's now open again. For Louisville area anglers, that's a great place to go, man. And there's some good... There's some blue holes up in the part in Fort Knox, and that gives some holdover possibilities. Your size in Otter Creek is going to be best. But Rock Creek is my favorite in McCreary County. It's near the Big South Fork National River Recreation Area, and that's the one that has boulders. It's like a little Big South Fork. If you're familiar with the Big South Fork, there are boulders the size of this building in the Big South Fork. And Rock Creek looks like at times that it disappears into a giant boulder garden. And you can hear the water flowing through the boulders, but you can't see a stream. And then you go around the boulders and there's a pool again. It's a very unique area. And we stock the fire out of trout in there. We put over 15,000 a year in there. So if you want a quality mountain fishing experience, and I think one of the Forest Service roads, I think it's Bell Farm Road is what they call it down there. Look on your map, but it parallels most of Rock Creek almost to the Tennessee border. So you can stop at dozens of places up and down through there and have a quality fishing experience in a beautiful area. And in the summer, it gets fairly used pretty good. There's some camping areas that get used down there quite a bit. It's a popular area. In the winter, you'll have it practically to yourself.
That's the next logical question. How easily accessed is this list of trout streams?
Now, overall, really easy. Clear Creek in Bell County has a road that parallels it the whole way. So does Rock Creek there. Swift Camp and East Fork of Indian has Forest Road 9B that follows it. Swift Camp, you got to, other than the mouth, you're going to have to hoof it a little bit to get down into Swift Camp, which makes it better fishing. Bart Camp in Whitley County is near the Cumberland Falls. Now that one requires some hike. That's a remote stream, but you're at Cumberland Falls, so you're in one of the prettiest places in Kentucky. Big Bone is easy. It's in Big Bone Lake State Park. Beaver Creek's fairly easy to get to. Casey Creek is fairly easy to get to. Elk Spring, I'm not as familiar. And Left Fork, I believe. Most of them, Middle Fork of Red River is real easy. You're not going to have to hike through, except for the one we're going to talk about here in a little while, Chimney Top. You're not going to have to hike 80 million miles into these. They're going to be pretty accessible.
Well, we've got a minute. Talk about Chimney Top.
Well, if you want an experience that's unlike any other in Kentucky, off of Highway 715, there's a parking area, and in the Red River Gorge, and I believe that's called Chimney Top Creek. And it's trail number 221 goes down into Chimney Top, and there's trails that follow it up and down. It's strenuous. Coming out of it, going down is easy, but coming out of it, it's going to test you a little bit. So if you need to be in decent shape to handle that one.
Decent enough shape, and if I assume you are not in decent shape, then allow longer time. Mm-hmm. If you're taking someone who is, let's say, not that fleet of foot.
Or a little older.
Or maybe kids, that this is going to be a strain on everyone involved.
Yes.
So resign yourself to that fact.
If you're going to do this, yes. But there's some big browns in that. We don't stock many, but it's so remote that, if you want a true wilderness experience where you're not going to see a soul, where you've got to work to get to it, and it kind of reminds you of something you might find maybe out in the Rocky Mountains or out west, then go to Chimney Top. There's a 16-inch minimum size limit and 1 fish daily creel limit on brown trout in that stream. But, I'd say it gets little to no pressure this time of year, and year-round it gets not much pressure at all because it's hard to get into.
This is the time to fish if you want peace and solitude and utter beauty. I am talking to Lee McClellan, and he is a fisherman extraordinaire, and he knows a lot about love, and it's a good thing because it is that time of the year, Valentine's Day, we have been talking about a little bit, so we're talking about pure love as it applies to fishing. We'll be back with more in our final segment with Lee, and we'll ask you just to hang with us. My name's Charlie Baglin. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin, and we're talking to Lee McClellan in the studio today about fishing Kentucky's seasonal trout streams. Those are catch and release streams, and if you take one home, you're in trouble.
Yes.
You don't want to do that.
No, wait, you can in April, but not during this time.
And that season is going on as we speak, and it will come to an end
March 31st, except for in Swift Camp Creek, which is May 31.
These are long stretches of stream. Mm-hmm. Where are you going to go? When you go to these streams, you access it, you're going to find better luck in different areas of the stream. Where do you suggest you look first?
In winter, you're going to need to be near what I call blue holes. And those are the deeper stretches of water. Deep water is the winter habitat of streamfish, whether they be smallmouth, whether they be trout, whether they be rock bass. Because deep water in the current, their metabolism is slow because they're a cold-blooded animal and their environment dictates the temperature of their blood. So they can go in a deeper stream, hang out near the bottom in current free water, and just chill because their metabolism is slower. But now trout, not as much as smallmouth, but it seems when I've fished these streams that near a blue hole, and the blue hole is a country term for a hole that is deeper, and in most of these streams in winter, that'll give it an aquamarine, turquoise type color, and it's really beautiful. But the flowing water above and below that blue hole and along the edges of the deep water are where the trout are going to hold. Another spot to try is the outside bends of the stream, those undercut bank areas that have flow. If there's some depth to them, target them hard. Now, if we get into March and it gets warmer, then those flowing shoals where the trout often hang in summer will start to become more and more and more where they're at. But if you're fishing in February, if you're fishing now, then target those areas around the blue holes and those deeper outside bends.
And again, you can only use artificial lures.
Yes.
What kind of presentation do you
You want to use as slow as you can, but with if you're using spinning equipment, inline spinners and spoons, you're going to have to keep it up a little bit. As you all know, you're going to be breaking off a lot of them. So enough retrieve to keep it off the bottom, but as slow as you can work it.
In addition to being an author or a writer for Kentucky Afield magazine and fishing, somewhere on that list being a husband, being a teacher, you are the coordinator for the State Record Fish program.
I sure am.
That has to be the coolest job anywhere on the planet.
It is.
It just simply has to be. You're the man. What's the record trout?
The record, there's 3 trout. And the brook trout will be broken, I suspect, quite a few times in the coming years, as we've now stocked brook trout in the Cumberland River. Previously, we only stocked brook trout in certain streams, and those are catch and release all the time. And I believe it came from Martin's Fork, which is up in the Cumberland Gap National Historical Area, up on top of Brush Mountain, if you're familiar with that part of the world, and Shalala Creek. All of them are brook trout streams. But the state record rainbow came from the Cumberland River way back in the 70s, and I believe that it is 14 pounds and change. Now, as much as I fool with these, you would think I have them all memorized, but I usually kind of do, but some I don't. I just want to make sure. Yes, 14 pounds, 6 ounces. Jim Mattingly of Somerset caught it back in the 70s, and he wrote a wonderful article for the magazine recently, within the last year and a half or so, about his experience catching that fish, and it was really, really well done. One of the first things that happened when I started quite a long time ago was Thomas Malone caught it was like 2 days before I started. He caught the state record brown trout down in the Cumberland River, and he was from Crofton, and he caught it. It's 21 pounds even. He caught it on a big old rattle trap, and he was fishing for, I think, big browns and also some stripers, because he was in the area where there were striped bass, and he caught that big hog on that. And the brook trout's only 1 pound 5 ounces. That will fall, I suspect, this year. And we do have one for lake trout. Back in a long, long time ago, we stocked actually, I think Tennessee stocked them in Dale Hollow, and a couple of them came up the Cumberland River, and we had it, and it was set back in 1983. I don't think you'll have to worry about that much anymore. But those 3 are the main ones: brook, brown, and rainbow. So 14-pound rainbow, which is a whopper, a 21-pound brown, which is a whopper, and then a 1 pound 5 ounce brook, which I think will fall this year out of the Cumberland River.
Before we go, Lee, let me ask you, where can folks go on the internet or wherever to learn a little bit more about Kentucky's seasonal catch and release trout streams? Go to our webpage at fw.ky.gov, or just pick up a copy of the fishing guide. They're available now. The 2013-14 Kentucky Sport Fishing and Boating Guide is available anywhere you buy your license, or if you can't find one, call 1-800-858-1549, and one of our wonderful information folks will gladly drop one into the mail to you. Okay, there were 2 things. The web address, fw.ky.gov, and a phone number, 1-800-858-1549, or any department store, fishing store, gun store, tackle store that carries fishing licenses should have a copy of the guide. Get a copy of the guide. That's why we print it. Put it in your tackle box, put it in your boat, put it in your glove box, and keep it. Okay. Last question, dude. Do you text and drive? No, I do not. Good man. In fact, I don't text at all. Coming up on Kentucky Afield Radio, what's that, next week, we go behind the scenes with the Archery Trade Show. If you bow hunt or otherwise interested in archery, or if you are just curious about how the outdoor recreational equipment industry works, you'll like this show. We talk to some of the manufacturers about what's new and coming to the store shelf near you. I brought back some tape of some interviews we had with an Olympic archer, a Hall of Fame director, and a lot more. Also, if you would like to go back and listen again to any of our programs, there are a few ways to do it. 1, we are on iTunes. You can subscribe to it free. 2, Kentucky Afield Radio is now paired with Kentucky Afield TV on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, put in Kentucky Afield Radio, spell it out there in the search box, and it should pop right up. A third way, a website that has supported Kentucky Afield Radio for a lot of years, a great place to share your adventure with the world, myhuntingandfishing.com. KYAfield.com ain't a bad place to go either for everything, hunting, fishing, boating, you name it. Meanwhile, join us again in a week as we go inside outdoors on Kentucky Afield Radio.